welcome to another exciting episode of the ATACS podcast. We are adults, we talk about cool stuff, and today we are talking about Hollow Knight Silksong, a little game that some of you may have heard of. I'm your host today. I am Flex from Raleigh, North Carolina. It is November 17th, 2025, and I am joined by a pair of experts here. We have Ryan from New York. How are you, Ryan?
I'm good. Go collect some nests, play some bugs.
And we also have Alex from Apex, North Carolina. How are you today, Alex?
I'm still singing and this door won't open, so maybe you guys can join me.
I'll bring my needle in and we'll jam out.
Yes.
And yes, we are talking about the highly anticipated Hollow Knight Silksong, the sequel to Hollow Knight. We are going to spoil Hollow Knight Silksong. This is going to be a spoiler cast. So if you do not want to hear spoilers about anything in the game, gameplay topics, world, characters, story, anything, this is your warning that this is not the podcast for you. We also, I think it's going to be unavoidable that the first Hollow Knight, the original, will also almost certainly be spoiled. So I'm just going to lay down a blanket spoiler warning for the original Hollow Knight as well. So those are your spoiler warnings. And with that out of the way, I think we'll go ahead and dive into this discussion because I think we have quite a bit to talk about. And to kind of set the table, this is a sequel to Hollow Knight, which came out in 2017. And Silksong was originally going to be a DLC or some kind of expansion to Hollow Knight, and then it kept growing in size and got too big, and they decided to spin it off in its own game and showed a trailer in 2019. And then it became kind of this myth as they just went quiet and worked on it for 6 more years after that first trailer. And lo and behold, it's finally here. It's kind of hard to believe we live in a post-Silksong world now, after all that. How are we gonna handle Nintendo Directs anymore without just people in chats just spamming Silksong win?
Silksong.
Slide it and turn out like Duke Nukem Forever.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Which is
I guess.
Yeah, how did you guys find the wait? I just found it mostly amusing that people were so hung up on it, but was it a thing to you guys at all, or?
Yeah, it was pretty amusing.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that boat as well, because, for me, playing Silksong, I was reflecting a bit on Hollow Knight, because Silksong, for better and for worse, I think is basically more Hollow Knight. For me, I played Hollow Knight back when it came out, and I would probably put it at a 9 out of 10 for my personal tastes. Maybe an 8.5, but probably more like a 9. Because it's a really good version of this kind of 2D Metroidvania, but as far as completely falling in love with it like some of the community did, I was not quite there. I think for me, Hollow Knight was a little too big, and I got a little tired of it. I like my Metroidvanias to be just a bit leaner, so I did find myself kind of getting wearied of it towards the very end, and I haven't played any of the DLCs, so Silksong was something I was definitely interested in, and I can understand after 7 years, people were a little tired of waiting, but I was not in the rabid fanboy club of the original Hollow Knight. But yeah, I guess a couple things I did want to mention there really quickly, and some of this will touch on some stuff I think we'll be getting into, is I think a lot of things that Hollow Knight did well, Silksong kind of, revisited. So the combat feels good. There's a lot of little, the art style is pretty clean, and there's a lot of little attention to detail, and animate and kind of the way the animations work and the character interactions work. The boss fights are generally fun, especially some of the more melee focused ones. You have the map system, which I think is really clever and works really well. So all of that stuff that was kind of in Hollow Knight came back with Silksong. I do think it being kind of more Hollow Knight made certain things feel more predictable in Silksong. Like, I think Silksong was maybe a bit more linear, and then you also have some kind of like the story structure and some things like that felt a bit predictable to me. I do think I would bump Silksong down at least 1 point. So if Hollow Knight was a 9 out of 10, I'd probably give Silksong closer to like a 7.5 or an 8, because of it being a more like predictable and I think tedious with some of the difficulty design. So there are some things I did feel a little disappointed that Silksong didn't like branch out a little more from the original Hollow Knight. Like, you're still kind of exploring a decaying kingdom. It's still pretty tight-lipped about like the character you're playing and the lore, and the kind of the true ending twist was, it's a common theme, but they didn't really do anything, I think, particularly to shake it up or divert from it. So I think a lot of the good things that Hollow Knight did, Silksong did, but it also did some things that maybe I didn't care about.
Yeah, and we'll definitely dig into some of those details as well. How was, I guess, how much did you like the original Hollow Knight, Alex? And how did you find the wait for Silksong? I guess, what were your expectations for Silksong in general before it came out?
Yeah, so I got introduced to Hollow Knight through Uflex. I was looking for another Metrovania, and this was up my alley. I had, I think, heard about the Kickstarter campaign, and it was very engrossing in terms of like the art style and the world building, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'll jump into this. It really kicked my butt. Especially whenever there were multiple bosses on screen. I remember playing it on the Switch, sitting in a hotel room in the corner while my family's asleep at night and just like cursing under my breath every time I get beaten. And I made it all the way through. I what was it? The Path of Pain? Was that one of the hardest areas? I beat that. I don't think I 100%ed it. I think there was a couple of boss rush like areas where I just didn't really. I wasn't as motivated to bang my head against the wall to beat those. But yeah, I got the secret ending, and that was a very gratifying experience. I hadn't played a Dark Souls game, but at that point, and it got me close to that. That tremendous triumph when you finally beat a boss that has been giving you so much trouble. So I was glad to have a nice break. And when Silksong finally came out, I was ready to jump right back into it. And sure enough, Silksong kicked my butt again. But I still enjoyed it. I really appreciated the world building. All the things that Ryan said ring true. I felt like it's not my favorite Metroidvania between Hollow Knight and Silksong, but dang, it's such a beautiful game. The characters are lovable. The NPCs are their singing is so engrossing, and Yeah, just in general, I'm a big fan. But yes, it's easy to get lost in the weeds sometimes. Especially with the first game, I did get lost trying to find the next ability because I think I jumped into it after all the DLCs were released, so I didn't have a good, you know, way to figure out where to go next. I was just kind of wandering around and poking around in different parts of the map, hoping that I would find the next ability. There was less of that in Silksong, although I still did kind of hit a wall a few times because you have to hit a wall sometimes to find this, a major part of the map where that's one of we'll dive into that, to that later, but yeah, it can be a little bit tough to figure your way around sometimes unless you're just smashing everything, which I think that is a good practice as you're roaming around exploring in Silksong and Hollow Knight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, early on in Silksong, I was like attacking every wall or suspicious looking corner, and after I found a couple hidden breakable walls, I was like, okay, we're doing this again. I gotta attack everything. And that's the nature of it. So you were mentioning from the first Hollow Knight some boss rushes, and then I was going to ask you if you played it after the DLC came out. So are you talking, there were like these pantheons where it was like 10 bosses in a row. Is that what you encountered? Is that the boss rushes you're mentioning?
Yeah. And because I played it after the DLC had come out, it was all just kind of released all at once for me. And I had no way of knowing, oh, is this something that I need to do versus something that is an optional area? So sometimes I would try to attempt something that I didn't really have to do. I think there was like a circus one, and I didn't realize until I looked it up. I was like, oh, okay, this isn't really part of the main path, and I could do it if I want, but it's not going to grant me some new ability that helps me explore other parts of the map.
Yeah, so I played the game twice. I played it when it first came out, before any DLCs, and then I played it a second time like 5 years later, and from a fresh file, and did all the DLC stuff except for the final Pantheon. I think I 100%ed the game except for the final Pantheon and like maybe a couple collectibles or the Mr. Mushroom. I don't think I ever bothered with Mr. Mushroom. And those Pantheons are ridiculous. Like, blows anything else in the game out of the water. I didn't do the last one because the last one is literally every single boss in the game. There are 42 of them, all in a row. I think you get some healing rooms after every 5 or 10 bosses. Like, you get a little break room. But it is straight up 42 boss fights in a row, and the last one is a altered, increased difficulty version of the Radiance. So it's pretty nuts. I did all the Pantheons.
Is it even worth it? Like, do you know what you get after that?
I've heard of some of that, like the DLC stuff and like the Steel Soul challenges, and like that's cool. I guess if you're into that kind of challenge, it sounds pretty hardcore.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even try that version of the Radiance. Because it's, I struggled to beat the Pantheon before it, Pantheon of the Night, because that ends with a boss called the Pure Vessel, which is also not anywhere else in the game. And the Pure Vessel took me a ton of tries. Like, the Pantheons actually that area has like a practice room where you can just go practice any boss you encountered. And like, after I met the Pure Vessel the first time, I just went into that practice room and just practice the Pure Vessel over and over for like a couple hours until I felt like I could kind of reliably beat it, so I didn't have to like run through all the bosses and die on it. And then I think it took me 2 tries after that of like going back to the pantheon of doing all the 10 bosses and got it. But that was a really satisfying moment. And I think that was a lot of the original Hollow Knight as a whole for me, was just like really, I found it really satisfying to kind of find my own way through the world. I do like Metroidvanias where you can get lost. That's my personal preference. And I liked Hollow Knight's level of non-linearity. There's a really good video on Game Maker's Toolkit, if you're familiar with their YouTube channel, about Hollow Knight's world design, and they talk about how, compared to most other Metroidvanias, especially, not accounting for ones that nobody knows of, but like the Metroidvanias in the common parlance are like, the diversity and the number of paths you can take in Hollow Knight is kind of crazy, and I really appreciate that. And I think Hollow Knight also had a more I guess a lot of other Metroidvanias have a combat focus, but Hollow Knight, as we've talked about before, has the difficulty and kind of the really intense combat that I think that was a fun combo for me, the exploration and the challenging combat. And Silksong continues that as well. I was fine with the wait. I mostly laugh at the wait because people go crazy about it. But I'm always waiting for video games to come out. So for me, it was just like, this is another one that'll come out sometime. And it's kind of crazy that 2 people basically make these games, because it seems like it'd be a lot of work. So that's kind of our experience with the first Hollow Knight. Real quick question before we turn to kind of the nuts and bolts of Silksong. We were talking about this before we started recording, but how did everyone play Silksong? Like, what platform did you play it on? Were you on TV, handheld, computer monitor? I played most of it on PC. I actually was still subscribed to Game Pass when it first came out. So I started playing it that way because it was a day one launch on Game Pass, and then Microsoft hiked the prices on Game Pass, so I canceled Game Pass and just bought it on Xbox, because buying Silksong is now cheaper than 1 month of Game Pass. And just finished it there because my file was already started. I did play on Xbox console a couple times because the cloud save transfer was nice, but I mostly played on PC still. How did you guys play Silksong?
I think I bought the Nintendo Switch 2 version and played mostly on the television, which I do wonder, because we had discussed some things. I complained a bit about how everything was really dark, and I have heard that the Switch 2 has some, like, because of filters or shaders or whatever, like, it doesn't always play well with older OLED TVs. I wonder how much of that was intentional design and how much of that was a technical issue. But yeah, I mostly played like docked, and also, you kind of shouted it out. I mean, the $20 price tag in 2025 is pretty impressive for a lengthy, high quality video game, even if it is considered indie. But yeah, that was kind of my play experience, was docked on the Switch 2.
Yeah, it's funny. They made so much money from the first Hollow Knight, they're like, we don't need to charge a lot for this one. It's a very privileged position.
Do you know if there were like Kickstarter backers that got it just like included, like as part of their original Kickstarter donation? Like I almost felt like I read somewhere that if you had been an early backer or something, and you would even get Silksong as well.
I think that I have not looked. I cannot say with full confidence that's the case, but I think that might be right. That if you backed the original Hollow Knight back in 2015 or whenever that Kickstarter was live, I think you may have still gotten Silksong with it, because Silksong was originally an expansion or DLC for Hollow Knight. So And I don't know when that promise was made of Silksong, but if like anyone backed Hollow Knight thinking they would get all the DLC for free, and then a DLC spun off into its own game, I guess they felt some kind of obligation there to just let them have Silksong for free. I don't know.
That would be wild. But I think I read or heard somewhere that maybe they would originally they had promised the Wii U version of Silksong as well. Now, obviously, that doesn't pan out in 2025.
Oh, I would love it if they released a Wii U version of that. That would be great.
Yeah, so that $20 price tag did not hurt at all, and I ended up picking it up on Steam and playing it on the Steam Deck. That was really the first time I've made some real good use of my Steam Deck. It's been sitting around gathering dust, unfortunately. I played a little bit of a few indie games on it. I think Dredge was one of them. But this was the first time, I really dove into it. I put the Steam Deck through its paces. I was worried that I might have stressed out the D-pad a bit too much in some of those boss battles. And I tried to dock it and play in my kind of man cave room with my projector running. Mm-hmm. And that was when I noticed that Steam Deck is not as great going back and forth between docked and handheld mode like it is on the Switch. I think it's mainly because I'm using like third-party accessories for controllers. Would be interesting to see, now that they announced their new Steam controller, how integrated into that ecosystem it would be that you want to go from handheld to docked on the Steam Deck. But primarily it was just easier for me to just play it in handheld mode, even when I'm just kicking back in my living room. So it still worked out pretty well. The screen is nice, even though I don't have the OLED version. And sometimes while I'm waiting for my kids to finish their music lessons, I'm sitting in my car trying to make some progress. And other than some glare from the sun sometimes, for the most part, it worked out. Just sticking to handheld mode.
Yeah, nice. And yeah, I'm not an expert on any of this, so don't take any of this as for sure true. I have read some things about the default HDR settings of the Switch 2 not always working well and causing some issues with lighting. I don't know if that's the problem you were having, Ryan, or not, but I think there might be something there. But I'm by no means a tech expert on that. But I have seen gripes on the internet about the Switch 2's HDR settings messing people up, like the default settings.
Yeah, I think it's probably the same thing. I think it's particularly with older televisions like mine. Still a very nice OLED. It's just like there was some new technology that the Switch 2 really tries to lean on for HDR. And if you don't have that, it can, I think, be a little inky or something.
Did you also try to take it off of dock mode and see if there was any difference in handheld mode, Ryan?
Not extensively. I think I might have pulled it off once just to see, but it was like a minute, just kind of on a lark.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm typically in your camp when it comes to playing games. I like to just play it in dock mode.
So I think a first question I'll ask is kind of the hot topic around this game when it launched, which is the exact same conversation that happens every time a From Software game comes out, which is the difficulty and is this game too hard? Should it have an easy mode? All of that kind of stuff. But I guess the general question I'll ask you all without diving, we do not need to spend a half hour on this discussion that happens with every game. I just want your impressions of how did you find the difficulty? Whoever wants to start that.
Well, this is a big topic for me, and I mean, I think it's one of the reasons why I would put Silksong, on a 10-point scale. I would rate it at least a point lower than um, Hollow Knight. I mean, and I don't know that I would go with an easy mode. I kind of am fine with developers balancing game difficulty the way that they choose. Although I will say that, like, I think some of the difficulty design in, or what I would consider the difficulty design in Silksong is strikes me as like kind of annoying, and it makes the game, especially this big, long, explory, you know, kind of game, more tedious than it needs to be. Um, so I think things in Silksong, because and I didn't play the DLC in Hollow Knight, but I do remember that in Hollow Knight was not necessarily an easy game, but I don't remember the difficulty there being as much of a sticking point. And I think there are probably a few reasons for that. I think with Hollow Knight, um, maybe there was a little less emphasis on like platforming and corpse running. I think a lot of the difficulty was in the boss fights, which were quite fun in Hollow Knight. And the more difficult areas in Hollow Knight, I think were kind of on the outer rims or in like the post game content, which you were kind of clearly opting into. Um, Whereas in Silksong, which is a bit more of a linear game, you're kind of forced to play through the more, difficult or tedious or whatever, however you would like to describe it, areas. And when I talk about sort of these annoying designs, I talked about how everything was really dark. It's like, okay, that's one way to make a game difficult, right? Is to just make the player not be able to see anything. Um, but is that really like a good design or a fun design? Um, I think you had a lot of dodgy flying enemies in Silksong, with like projectile attacks or parries or like suicide effects, like really kind of obnoxious enemy designs. You had some pretty stingy bench placements, like so you had to do some pretty lengthy corpse running in certain sections, which is that gets old very quickly, especially when it's not really used as judiciously as it probably should be. And I do think Silksong leaned a little more on a lot of extensive platforming and quick resets. Although Silksong's platforming was a bit more forgiving than Hollow Knight's, I do think, like, we talked about the Path of Pain in Hollow Knight. I think that actually was, it was one area specifically for the post game, and it was kind of neat that they tried it. But Hollow Knight was not a great platformer, and so having like a precision platforming section was actually kind of not a great difficulty design or challenge, in my opinion. And Silksong was like, well, hold my beer, right? Like here's we're gonna put these everywhere, and if you touch like a spike or whatever, you're gonna reset to like the start of the area or something. So that's kind of my take on difficulty, is that I think Silksong in some ways is more difficult, but a lot of that was kind of through like annoying design and like the fact that it makes like traversal tedious and exploration tedious in ways that I think often didn't. Like I complain a lot less in Silksong about some of the boss fights, like the we talked about. I think it's like the Blade Dancer. Really tough fight. I had to do it a lot of times. I went back to get like a pen upgrade because I thought it was pretty challenging. But I still think that's kind of fun because I think the challenging boss fights in these games are fun. Like that's not something I'm inclined to complain about nearly as much as like you know going through an area that drains my ability to heal myself and then getting attacked by like enemies that spit poison and then fly out of the way whenever I like try to jump up and swing at them or whatever. Which is like every area in Silksong.
And I think the blade dance you're talking about is Scar Singer Carmelita, one of the three
Yes.
very, very late game where you get their hearts. Okay, yeah, just clarifying. Yeah, I thought that's what you're talking about. Yeah, BioWater, they needed to make this game more like Dark Souls and add a poison swamp in.
I'm gonna get traumatic flashbacks every time I hear BioWater.
I mean, in some ways, that mechanic, I had to remind myself, it's like, really, this is probably less annoying than like the spikes that just send you back.
Mm-hmm.
But it is still frustrating when you like drop in the poison muck and then like, you have to dig your way out through some of these like annoying enemies that like the mosquitoes that like blow up and fly towards you whenever you deal like a fatal blow. It's like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I didn't like those little like bushy guys that hopped around and blew darts at you.
Those guys. Yeah. I almost never bothered to kill them. I would just run past them because it would take so long to wait for them to pop back out.
Yeah.
How did you find the difficulty overall, Alex?
Yeah, similarly, I think that there were some things here and there in terms of the design that didn't jive with me in terms of how you would lose multiple masks if you like fell into lava. And I think people would point to Hollow Knight and say, hey, that didn't happen in the first game. Why is it, so punishing, when you start with so few masks, that you're already losing like, what, 2/5 of your health?
And it's not even just the lava,
tough.
Even the early bosses hit you for 2, which I don't think they did in Hollow Knight. It could be misremembering, but I don't think they started doing that in Hollow Knight for a good chunk of the game.
Yeah, pretty sure they don't. I think in that first boss in Silksong, the Bell Beast, you would lose 2 masks.
Yeah,
while
so they just did that
I was
right
watching,
away.
And I was watching my son for his first playthrough of Hollow Knight, and I was with my mouth open. I'm like, this is so much better than what I had to go through. I completely forgot about, how more lenient it was. I think Hollow Knight maybe had a smoother difficulty curve as a result, where it kind of just slowly amped it up as you progress further along. While Silksong probably assumes that, hey, you've played Hollow Knight, right? So let's just throw you into the deep end, which may not be the case for many players because we saw how popular it was on initial release, and I'm pretty positive that there's a large number of players who heard about the hype and dove into that without playing the first one, and may have been turned off by how tough it might get right away.
Yeah, I would love to talk to some of those people who played Silksong without playing Hollow Knight or even knowing much about it. If they just jumped on the bandwagon, that would be a fascinating way to experience Silksong.
Yeah, there was a one of the regulars on this podcast I listened to, and it's called A4 Play, and this guy who's like a semi-regular host said he dove into it because of the hype, and he didn't make it past I think like around where you got the cloak, the drifting, the drifter's cloak in that Farfields area. So yeah, it kind of turned him off.
Yeah.
But from my experience, there were other things that were tough. Ryan mentioned the bench placements. Like, I don't mind banging my head against the wall when trying to fight bosses. It's expected that I need to learn their patterns and get good. But having me traverse through a bunch of areas, like, the BioWater being one of them, but the other one is the Blasted Steps, right? To get to the last judge.
Savage. like the Savage Beast Fly or whatever.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
a horseman fight, boss fight.
What are you talking about? The first one or the second one where you're hunting it in the in the far fields area, Brian?
I think yeah, the second one I remember there wasn't like a bench there, so you had to do like a big platforming
Hmm.
section and like lose a few masks and then
Yeah,
fight like this super enraged version of the beast fly or whatever it was.
I did not like that boss fight. All that lava
No.
and getting I think
Oh, right,
I
that
think yeah
fight.
you needed the magma bell to really
Hmm.
make it easier. But yeah, there were other weird game design choices, like when you would get a new crest, and you have your favorite crest, but then when you get your new one, it replaces your crest,
Hmm.
and you're kind of reset with all your tools and everything are just kind of uh,
Yeah.
yeah, just kind of unassigned, like, so you're just like, what's going on? I got to make my way to a bench again to
Yeah.
get back to where you were, right? To get back to your original settings.
That was a really odd design decision. And I think most that only happens half a dozen or so times throughout the game because there aren't, considering how long of a game this is, there aren't that many crests. And I think most of them were close enough to a bench that I didn't have to go through anything taxing to get back to a bench and switch back. But it is a really odd thing. Like, I don't know
Yeah,
why
because
they
you
would
develop
make
a
you.
muscle memory, and then all of a sudden your downward strike is like completely different,
Uh
or
huh.
your range is like different. So
Yeah.
it just kind of messes with you, you know?
Yeah. I fully agree. I wish they didn't do that. It wasn't a huge impact just because there's not a lot of them, but every time they did it I was like, "Oh, I don't like this. Why are we doing this?"
Or when, like, trying to use like a certain type of tool, and it's I don't know.
Hmm.
I could be wrong. I don't remember if all the tools also reset,
I
but
think it does. Yeah,
um,
I think I
yeah.
think you're right. When it equips the new crest, it has no tools on it.
Hmm. Yeah.
It
And
also did
then
that.
just the
It also did that
oh,
with
right.
the silk skills. Anytime you found
Yes.
a new one of those, it would automatically equip it as well, which I didn't like.
Yeah. But I never used the silk skills,
Same.
so it didn't bother me as much.
I need that silk
Yeah,
for healing, not for attacking.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was going through before we started, and trying to get a feel for all the different items and tools and everything, and silk skills. I'm like, oh yeah, there's all these silk skills. I never even touched any of them.
Yeah. Yep. Same.
And then
Um,
just kind of the 45-degree angle, like downward strike. I never really got used to it at all. So I don't know how anybody really went through Hunter's March and did not
yeah.
like equip like a different crest, which made it easier. I just skipped Hunter's March until I had the Reaper's crest.
There were. Yeah. It's. Yeah. So I'm guessing none of us. Am I correct in saying that none of us really use the hunter's crest?
No, I tried it out a little bit after you get the because it gets upgraded twice potentially.
Mm-hmm.
I tried it out a little bit, but I mean, I didn't love like some of the air attacks, like the down stab
Mm-hmm.
on the Hunter's Crest, but also like the focus thing. It's like, okay, so if I don't take a hit, I guess my damage kind of powers up, which is a cool idea. I mean, I like how the crests kind of have those little like gameplay tweaks, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think the way the swinging worked and um, it was also a little unfortunate tangent. I guess this is a tangent, but like the Hunter's Crest is the only crest that gets some kind of upgrade. And I
Yeah.
think they all should have upgrades because it's kind of a cool mechanic, and I would have loved to play around with them more, especially like the Reaper and the Wanderer crests with upgrades. But
Mm-hmm.
oh well.
Yeah, I agree with that. When I got the
Mhm.
first Hunter's Crest upgrade, I was like, "Oh, cool! We're gonna get to upgrade all the crests." Nope, only the
Yeah.
hunters.
Nope.
Part of me feels like I maybe should have given the Hunter's Crest more of a shot and like tried to get used to the diagonal downward slash, because I do think like that's the crest they kind of wanted people to use. And I definitely noticed a lot of platforming segments where the things you needed to pogo off of, like bounce off of, seemed to be placed perfectly for the pogo angle, or the diagonal angle of the Hunter's Crest. I actually switched to the Hunter's Crest to do this optional like race near the like at the end of the game. There's like this guy who wants, in the very top right corner of the map, who like wants to race you. He thinks he's the fastest bug alive. And the spacings on the things you have to bounce off of were such that it worked a lot better to use that for me to use the diagonal, and that I could tell that. So I did use it for that, but I could tell there were a lot of other places in the game that stuff was placed similarly, and it's like, I think they really want us to use this, and they give it upgrades and all this other stuff. But yeah, the second they gave me the Wanderer, I was like, I don't think I'm ever going back to the Hunter.
Yeah, I didn't go back to the Hunter either. I messed around with some of the other crests, the Witch one for a little bit, but I couldn't really get that down because it changed up the healing mechanic so drastically.
How did that work? Because I tried the Witch a couple times because it had, I think it was the only one with 2 blue and 2 red slots or something like that, or maybe it had 3 blue. It had a unique combination of tool colors that I really wanted. And then every time I tried to use it, I would try and heal and couldn't heal, and I was like, I don't understand what's happening. Why can't I heal?
It's an AoE, and you need to be in close proximity to an enemy in order to essentially like drain them of their life force.
So you have to be near enemies to be
Right.
able to heal?
Yeah.
Okay.
It takes away your heal and replaces it with like a drain attack.
Okay.
So if you're like really good at it, yeah, I saw some videos online of people mastering it, and they just swear by it. They say, you get close to an enemy, you deal damage. There's like other tools that also deal damage. I think if you do the multi-binder, that also has synergy with it, so that you can like heal twice in addition to like doing double damage. But yeah, you had to. It also forced you to get closer to your enemies, which I was always trying to not do. I was trying to stay as far away as possible.
Same. Yeah, if I ever play this game again, I will probably impose a rule on myself to not use I will probably bar myself from using the Wanderer's Crest just to make myself play with the other crests, because I think there is some variety in there that I just did not experience. And it wasn't even so much the down pogo, which while I did like the downward pogo on the Wanderer, it was more the quick attacks. Like anytime I switched off the Wanderer to try something else, I'm just like, it just felt so slow to attack. Like the Wanderer, you can just really like bop, 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 bop. Like it's a really fast attack.
Yeah. I stuck to the Reaper for most of the game because I liked its range. But a few times when I had difficulty with, like, say, the Scar Singer, Carmelita, I saw some tips that just said switch to Wanderer and add the Druid Eyes. So if you get damage, you'll heal. You'll get back some of your silk, and then just go crazy, go nuts, and try to spam your attack on the boss. And it worked. And I did that for the last boss as well, for Lost Lace.
Yeah, and I'm sure all the bosses are beatable with all the crests. But yeah, those 2 bosses, which for me were the 2 hardest bosses in the game, Carmelita and Lost Lace, both of those bosses are so fast, and my fights with them were just very much dancing around, dodging attacks, and like getting in quick jabs when I could. And I tried Carmelita once or twice with a different crest, and I just couldn't get hits in because she's so fast. And it's just like, I just need to be able to attack quickly to hit these bosses. They're so fast. So it
And she
felt
also
like,
blocks your attacks, so
mhm.
like 50% of the time, like you do no damage even when you do get in close.
Yeah. So it's like it's just not being able to attack fast makes those fast bosses, for me at least, very challenging. But I'm sure the other crests have their other perks that I just didn't get used to or fully wrap my head around.
Yeah, the crest feel to me like a little bit of one of the bigger missed opportunities of Silksong on its own because, like we've discussed, like you unlock some of those so late. Like I think there's like the Architect crest, the Witch crest, the Shaman crest, like which seem to be really specialized around like using silk skills. But I got them so late, I was like not inclined to experiment. Um, I didn't want to like fiddle with things, or it's like, oh, I should be using a bunch of tools now. It's like, no, I'm just going to stick with the the tried and true. But
Hmm.
you get the Reaper and the Wanderer both fairly early, and the Reaper has such a long range. There were times like in the traversal and platforming where I would use it because like the flying enemies that I complained about that would kind of dodge out of the way, like trying to air attack those with the Wanderer, which has the little stubby.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that you can swing really fast because you can't hit them and you don't get multiple swings in the air the way that you do like against a boss on the ground. So the Reaper just had this big arcing like these big arcing swings, and then it could also help you get more silk. But when you tried to use the Reaper against the bosses, like sometimes you could use the range to kind of keep a safe distance, but more often than not, it's like you said, the Wanderer, because it attacks so fast, you can just kind of like YOLO the bosses. You
Uh-huh.
have to be a little more precise, like because its range is fairly short, but like getting on top of a boss and just hammering them with the Wanderer, like whack, 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 and like
Hmm.
regaining a bunch of silk was so satisfying. Plus, when you opened up a stun window, like attacking with one of the slower crests just felt so like bad. Or
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I got two swings with the Reaper, and I would have gotten like five with the Wanderer. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely felt like there were some interesting trade-offs between like, oh, here's something with longer range swings, but it's slower. I can attack from a safer distance. I'm better in the air combat, but like I can't really push or be aggressive, and kind of close out the boss fights the way that I want to. Um, Versus like the Wanderer, it's like, oh, I have to be precise about my range. Like I can't hold back. That was another thing I found is whenever I switched between the crests, I had to like adjust my play style because
Hmm.
I would switch to the Wanderer from the Reaper, and then I would start swinging at the boss from like too far away. Just be like,
Hmm.
oh, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not using. I don't have that range anymore.
Hmm.
I,
There.
I wonder if that the way that they force you to switch press and your loadout like was a way for you to like try out the crest for a little bit of time before you have to revert back to your old playstyle. But I would have liked to see them do something like they did with the slab area, where you're kind of
Right.
like stuck in this area and you have to figure things out given what you have or what you don't have now. It would have been an interesting game design choice if like every time you got a crest, it's like, oh, there's this little area where you could like try out the strengths and weaknesses of it to get a feel for it before you revert back to your old ways.
Yeah, I think I would. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, I think I would have liked that if it was just like a 15-ish minute area right after you got each crest that kind of like kind of somewhere between a tutorial and for the crest and just like an area to explore that kind of has challenges tailored to using that crest, to help get you used to it, because it is, when you're really used to one crest, it is kind of hard to switch once you've built in that muscle memory. At least for me it is. And some of the crests don't have great descriptions for what they do or how they work. Like, I asked about the the witch one or whatever it was called.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't figure that out in the few times I tried it. So if they had somehow like made a little section that kind of made those things clearer and like let you use it a little bit, like I bet people would have been more willing. I certainly would have been more willing to like actually switch up the crest, like getting that little bit of comfort with them beforehand.
Yeah. It's an interesting overall the way that the developers approached the game design was, I guess, kind of like the very old school, like Super Metroid style, where there's very little tutorial, right? There's not a lot of like hand holding. It's just kind of figure it out, environmental clues, and you just kind of have to. You get maybe a little bit of a description, but that's about it. And so, I wonder if that might have gone against their philosophy to have a more tutorialized area every time you got a new crest. But maybe they could have designed it in a way, you have these little sections where you go indoors, right? You go inside a room, and then there's this kind of like subsection, and you can't get out until you beat these series of bosses or hit the switch, and then you can get back out. Maybe they could have woven it in that way with these new crest discoveries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I did appreciate the slab, like, kind of being forced to use the hunter for a little bit. Like, that was kind of fun. Did, how, I guess, shocking or surprising was getting captured? I guess, I don't know if there's another way to get into the slab. Did you both get captured? Was that your first experience in this slab? Or did you find it another way without getting captured?
Don't remember getting captured. What? Explain to me what happened.
Okay, so it is possible. Yeah, there's some enemy, I forget where, but there's some enemy who, like, if you get hit by him, he like catches you in a cage or something. And
it happened to me in Greymore.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I couldn't remember where, but like someone will catch you and put you in a cage, and it like fades to black, and then it comes back up, and you're in a cell in the slab because it's a prison. And you have no gear, you have no crests, you have no tools, you have nothing. And you basically have to do your own jailbreak. And the default moveset, and you don't have any of her abilities, so like you don't have the cloak, you don't have, you don't have like whatever upgrades you found at that point. And her default moveset is just the hunter, so like that's all you got.
I think you kick as well, since you don't even have your needle.
Yeah, you don't have your needles. Yeah, it's just like a generic punch or kick for your side attack.
That's funny. I remember that enemy you're talking about, but I don't think it ever hit me with the cage. I don't know if it, it's possible that one of them just killed me outright, but yeah, none of them ever actually captured me. So I ended up finding the slab through just exploration.
Yeah, because
you were able to get in.
Yeah, because it's I think it's connected to Mount Fay as well. So it's like the only way you can access Mount Fay is through the slab, maybe. And
yeah, that's right.
So you have to be able to get there to get to Act 3 and to get some other late game stuff.
Yeah, so I'm guessing you couldn't get into the slab because it connects to it's the only way to get to Mount Fay. And then the only way to get into the slab otherwise is, I think, from the coral chambers in Act 2. Where I got to the slab in Act 1 because I got caught earlier.
Oh, wow.
and I did find that other back way around through the coral chambers later, like much later. And yeah, I had a feeling it must be possible to like beat that, like to not get caught. And because, I mean, that fight should be winnable without getting hit. And then find another way into the slab. But yeah, I guess it would be, I hadn't thought about when that would happen until now. But yeah, I'm guessing that happened fairly late-ish Act 2 for you, Ryan, when you got into the slab.
That sounds right, yeah. Or, I might have dipped in there in and out a little bit. But I do remember you have to kind of find these keys and stuff as well to really be able to explore much of it.
Yeah, which was a big part of when you get captured. You have to like find the right keys in the right order to be able to get out.
That's funny. I was wondering like what the deal was because I went back through and like I ended up finding all the keys and like fully exploring the slab, and it was not really that rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I wonder why
Yeah.
they did this.
Yeah, there's not much
You
there
get
in terms of items. There's not much there because it's a prison, and it's meant to
Yeah.
be this like set piecey prison escape thing. So yeah, I guess if you come in otherwise, it probably seems like it's like, what is this place?
Yeah, it's pretty unremarkable if you have all your tools, but when you're stripped of everything and you're naked, you're just like fearing for your life. And it almost turns into kind of like a stealth, game because you're trying to avoid the enemies rather than trying to confront them, since you don't have your needle. But I do recommend if you get a chance, just look up, what happens the moment you get back your stuff.
Yes.
It's a pretty awesome, badass moment.
Yeah, that scene was like, oh man, they're just going for it.
Nice.
Hornet is a stone cold killer.
She just jumps this dude and twists his neck.
Yeah. I think that's one thing, and Hollow Knight did this as well. I think Silksong maybe does it a little better, is all of the areas in Silksong have a unique flavor to them and a unique things that can happen and like play styles they kind of enforce, and like having something like the slab in there where you get stripped of everything is like maybe one of the starker examples of that, but I do appreciate that all the areas feel different, and like even as much as we can like I could gripe about the poison swamp and biowater, like it does make that area feel very different. Like it stands out from the other areas. And I do like having that variety, even if, not every area is as good as others. Like some are better than others, but I do appreciate that variety, especially in a world this big, to all have their different
and
feel.
Hunter's March is like all about those traps.
Yes.
Oh, man, they put a trap on a bench, which is
they did.
Is cute.
Did I got by it? Did everyone else get hit by it?
I knew it. I saw. Yeah, I saw your post about it, and I completely forgot, and I still died from it.
Yeah.
And then there's a second one, the one in Biowater. Did you guys also fall for that one?
No, after the first one in Hunter's March, I was suspicious of every other bench for the rest of the game, so I was like really careful. I was paranoid.
I was such in desperate need of a bench in Biowater, and then it just collapses under my weight, and I fall right into the maggot water. It was horrifying.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Good times.
Yeah.
Each of the areas does have its own flavor, and I appreciated that. And each area has its own kind of like, hazard that you need to avoid. Like in Blasted Steps, it's those kind of like, worms that would that are like piranha plants in the sand. Mm-hmm. And then there's the mist area, which I thought that was also kind of like a very interesting section where you also have those kind of like what are they called? They're sort of like the ghosts that would eat your silk.
Banshees or wraiths. Or something like that.
Yeah, and that was also frustrating. It's like, oh no, I have no way to heal now that they sucked all the silk out of you.
Mm-hmm.
Did they explain? I had to look up the trick to the mist. I think the mist would have been a cooler area thematically if I had any clue about what was going on. Because I went back to it like 3 times and then I got frustrated and looked it up, and it's like, I think you're supposed to play your song for the moths.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to find out, is there a pattern? Am I supposed to be following these? And it's like, well, yeah, you are, but you have to play your song first. I don't know.
I thought it had something. I had an inkling that it had to do with those little like moths flying around, but I always forget about using the needle, and so I also had to look it up as well.
Yeah, I always forgot about the needling too.
apparently there's a lot of lore related stuff related to the Needlein. If you play it in certain places, you'll see the ghostly images of NPCs that would have some cryptic message. Very much kind of Dark Souls like, where they drop little breadcrumbs of things that tell you about the world, but you have to really pay attention to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started using it more.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Oh, I was going to say I did start using it more, but especially my first time through a lot of areas, I encountered some things where it was like, oh, this looks like, somebody maybe has died, or like you should be able to communicate with this thing, and then it's like it wasn't until later. And I don't think I went back and redid all of that, because when you play the Needlein, it's like you said, you'll hear like the thoughts, or sometimes like echoes from the past or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of NPCs will actually sing along with you, which if I had discovered that sooner, I would have played it for everyone. Yeah, so I have a bunch of other questions about things that we kind of touched on a little bit, but like I want to hear what kind of tools everyone used. I want to kind of hear about some like the pathways people went through the world and that kind of stuff. And we are definitely going to hit upon all that. For right now, we are going to take a quick break. For the listeners, it'll be very quick. So stick with us. We'll be right back to talk more about Hollow Knight Silksong. And we are back, continuing to talk about Hollow Knight Silksong. Spoilers as always. And I am Flex, joined by Ryan and Alex, and we're going to keep this spoiler cast going. We talked a lot about various gameplay and equipment stuff, and one thing I was thinking about earlier that I did want to see how you guys felt about. Ryan was talking about a lot of flying enemies earlier, which I agree can be kind of tedious, and there are a ton of flying enemies in this game. And I kind of wonder if they did that because Hornet is way faster and way more mobile than the vessel from Hollow Knight. How did you... So, I mean, I guess kind of the tangential thing to that is, like, how did you find Hornet's movement in general and her... We've talked a lot about the crest, but I guess we can also talk, like, throw the, like, permanent upgrades in here. Like, she has a dash. Well, there's the dash, but then you keep holding it, and she runs, which the vessel didn't have in Hollow Knight. And just even her normal movement seems very fast, very snappy. So I almost wonder if they threw more flying enemies because of that. If maybe without them it would have been easier. I don't know. And then also, of course, there are the tools. So, like, that's maybe, like... Because one of the first tools you get is kind of that javelin, and they're like, yeah, use this to hit flying enemies. So it seems like they also maybe wanted the tools to be a key part of dealing with flyers. So I guess just in general, like, how are your guys... How'd you feel about Hornet's movement, her, like, move set compared to the vessel? Do you agree that she was, like, quicker and had more mobility? And then also with, like, all the upgrades she gets and everything. How did you find all that?
Yeah, she's a blast to play. Watching my son play Hollow Knight, the vessel moves like molasses compared to Hornet, and it feels so great once you get those abilities: the swift step, the ability to grip the walls, the cling grip, just like with the drifting cloak. There's a lot of great movement abilities, and then you get that near the end, the ability to just do this like super jump, which is great. That Silksong ability. So it's the traversal is so fun, and it makes the exploration to me worth it. Like there's the exploration piece, and then there's the boss fight piece, and I'm really in it more for the exploration. I love that's why I love Metrovanias, and I had a blast doing just going around the different environments with Hornet's abilities, and I think it that challenge they had to amp it up somehow, right? With those flying enemies, with those rooms filled with multiple enemies that you have like waves and waves to get through to really kind of amp up the challenge, it seems. But yeah, I think with the tools, with the mobility, it does kind of feel fresher.
Yeah, anything to add on here, Ryan?
That's interesting. I mean, I do think the controls are good in both Hollow Knight and Silksong. It's been a long time since I played Hollow Knight, so I don't remember like the exactly things like pacing. And some of the upgrades seemed like they were kind of similar to me, like the wall fling and the double jump and like the super jump.
Yeah,
I
there's a
think
good
we're all
there's a good
basically in Hollow
number.
Knight.
Yeah, there's a good number that were also in Hollow Knight. The clean grip was, a double jump was. Hollow Knight had a horizontal launch thing instead of a vertical jump.
Like a
Okay, gotcha.
yes, they had like a forward launching move that is kind of like a quick burst of speed.
Yeah.
And then there was like an air dash sort of move.
Yeah, both games have, a dash. Hollow Knight did not have the run that, like, after you dash, you keep holding it and you run. Hollow Knight did not have that.
Yeah.
So there's a couple in Silksong that were not in Hollow Knight, but a lot of them were.
Okay, I felt like I had vaguely remembered some. Like I think the silk throw or whatever, where you like throw the needle out and then zip to it, was probably new.
Yeah.
I guess
Yes, that was new. The hookshot thing, basically.
of what stood out to me, I mean that in combination with the Drifter's Cloak, I think. We talked about it a little bit earlier in terms of difficulty, and that the Drifter's Cloak, I think, did, and it probably allowed the developers to put in more of those extensive platforming sections. I think there probably were still too many of those for Silksong, because the Drifter's Cloak, which is kind of like a slow fall or glide, definitely made platforming, I think, more forgiving and in general, and kind of allowed you to line up like your needle throws or whatever. And that could sometimes be kind of satisfying, where it's like, okay, you got to needle throw, bounce, like needle throw, grab a wall, like glide.
Mm-hmm.
Although I think it was maybe a bit overdone, because I still don't know that this is like the best platforming game. Maybe with like some of the Souls-like elements, it just makes it a little bit punishing when you mess up. But that was one thing that stood out to me, is that, and it's interesting you were speculating about like using like the needle throw for flying enemies. I forget what they call it exactly. What is that ability called where you throw the needle and
The
zip
claw
to
line.
it? The claw line.
Mm-hmm.
That's a cool idea. I think either I didn't try it or I stopped using it, because it's very easy to get punished when you do that. 'Cause if the needle hits the enemy, then yeah, you're gonna like zip to them, and Hornet will like hit them with her pen and bounce off or whatever. But if you miss, then it's going to drag you along with it, and like, if you narrowly miss an enemy, then it's going to drag Hornet right into taking damage, which is, it's not a very forgiving game, and you kind of have to carefully manage your resources. So like carelessly, I do remember trying to use the claw line aggressively in a couple of situations, but when you miss, like you just kind of throw yourself at the enemy, which is not always ideal.
Yeah. I mean, that's, if you miss with a melee, you're also in trouble. But yes, I get what you're saying. And I was also mentioning earlier the tools, the red offensive tools. I also wonder if a lot of the addition of more flying enemies was you have a lot of the red tools are projectile attacks that you can attack from a safe distance. So I almost wonder if that kind of went hand in hand with the flying enemies for them, but that's just me speculating on their intent there.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to. I was going to say, I don't know if we want to dive into the tool discussion right now.
Sure, yeah.
I use some off and on, but like in terms of trying to use them to address the flying enemies specifically, like I think one time I switched to the javelin and was like, oh, what does this thing do? And then, I had to use like 5 or 6 javelins out of the limited 12 or so just to defeat one of those flying enemies. And it was like, man, I'm wasting a bunch of carapace. Like this is still a pretty tedious exercise of trying to line up this, the javelins, specifically the anti-air one. But because the enemies are so dodgy and because there are so many of them, like you're just going to run out of that resource pretty quickly, I think, is how it felt to me. I mean,
yeah,
I didn't use the tools that extensively, and I stuck, I think, with like the dart, which is one of the first ones you get.
Just the straight horizontal dart.
One. Yeah. Fairly low damage, but you get like 25 or so of them. And, when you're up against a boss, like sometimes it's like, oh, I don't have a window. Like, let me throw 3 darts or whatever. I also occasionally used, I tried a few. I tried the javelin. I tried the little robot that like attacks enemies.
The little flying guy?
The cogfly? The cogfly?
Yeah, I love that guy.
Cogfly. I tried him out. But I think I ended up falling back to the straight dart or needle, and the there's like a flame oil that you like splash flame oil on your pen, and sometimes if you set that up with like the Wanderer, because I assume it's just some kind of damage bonus, you don't get a ton of time with it, but there were definitely some times where because the bosses sometimes once you hit them enough they'll fall down. So I would try to like predict when that would happen and then like apply flame oil and see if I could get, a few hits that way. I would say those were the ones I used the most. I mean, I think the Architect crest was supposed to be a pretty powerful build. I've heard people maybe hyping it up a little bit, but
yeah, so
managing the carapace, figuring out which tools were good.
Yeah, I was going to mention this earlier when we were talking about the crest, because I did actually, for a couple bosses, I did switch to the Architect crest and then put on 3 red tools and put on the poison blue one, the one that makes them all deal poison damage, and just basically beat the boss by just spamming through all my tools.
That's cool.
Because when you have 3 red tools...
Did you use up all your carapace resource?
Yeah, I'd use a good chunk of it, but I was never... which I do have a gripe about those, but I actually was never in... I never ran out of those in the game.
And the Architect one also lets you replenish your tools using Silk.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. Maybe that's part of why I didn't run out. But yeah, so I remember specifically actually the Biowater boss, because I died on it once and it was kind of a long trek back. And I remember thinking it was like hard in that arena to like bounce around and get to it, but it was kind of slow in the air. It just like floated in the air towards you kind of slowly, but it was hard to hit it in melee just because of the arena. So I died on it once, and that's one of the longest like corpse runs back to it from the bench.
Run, yep.
And so after I died once, I'm like, let me try just bombarding it with tools. So I switched to the Architect crest, put on my 3 favorite tools, which were my main anti-air one was the like 3 dart. It throws 3 darts at once, and they're like angled diagonally upward. That was kind of my general go-to tool. And then I use the horizontal disc one. That is what the map maker has, her little discs.
Okay.
Because those like
chakra.
Yeah, the chakras, yeah. Because they bounce around. They go horizontal like the dagger, but they also bounce around the arena off the walls, so you get a little more leeway and can potentially hit multiple enemies. And then the Codfly was my third one. And I just like spammed them just constantly and just basically stood on one side of the arena and just that boss melted like almost instantly. It was really funny.
That's pretty great.
That frog one, the Growl the Great?
Yeah, the big frog in Biowater.
That was annoying. That was really annoying to get to him, partly because of the corpse run. And then there's like an arena fight you have to do before you can fight him.
Yep. So I just went all in. I just went ham on the poison tools, and he just melted, which is pretty great.
I like that. Hearing that guy get housed.
Yeah,
I can get behind that.
Yeah, it was pretty satisfying. That does remind me that you mentioned there was a arena fight beforehand. That is something I do not like as an arena fight that you have to play every time before a boss. They had that with a couple of boss fights, and after one or two tries, the arena fight's not threatening, but it's still just like another tedious thing to go through before the boss. I did not like that.
Yeah. Yeah, there were, I think Carmilla had one, Zog had one. I think you could actually get past it, but the guy who summons the pillars, I think you could actually shortcut. You could like drop a pillar, like
yes,
open a pathway straight to the bench.
The kind of like underwater. I think his name is like Proscon. He's like a crab.
I almost missed. I think I was just like randomly attacking the wall just to see if anything happens, and I knocked down like a stalactite. And I was like, oh, great, there's a shortcut to the bench. Now I don't have to do like 4 arena fights when this boss kills me.
Yeah,
that felt pretty necessary. You still have to do 1, I think, but way better than doing 4.
Yeah.
So one major change that I really like that Silksong did from Hollow Knight is the way the corpse run works is... Like in Hollow Knight, you had to fight this little like shade of yourself, and when you killed it, you got your currency back, but you didn't get any healing juice back. In Silksong, all you have to—it's not a thing that fights back. It's just a spool of silk, basically. And when you hit it, it refills all your silk. So, like in Hollow Knight, you would end up in these situations where it's like, well, I'm going back to fight this boss that I died on. If I want to enter the fight with full, I forget what it was called in that game, but your healing juice. Soul, I think it was. Ideally, you want to enter the fight with that maxed out, right? So if you wanted that, you would have to go grind for it. But in Silksong, if you're refighting a boss, you just hit your silk at the start of the battle, and you get all your silk back, and you can heal right away.
And there was like, sometimes I would employ a bit of strategy as well. Like if I went into the boss fight with already a full silk, then I would just hold off on destroying my cocoon until I needed a refill. So that also changed up like how I fought the boss because I needed to make sure I didn't accidentally hit the cocoon.
So
I do wonder.
Go ahead.
That reminds me. So when you're doing your bind, and I don't know if it was like this in Hollow Knight, but when you're doing your healing animation, your bind, like if an enemy hits you, I think you lose like all of the silk you used on the bind, you take damage, and it is basically horribly punishing in Silksong. Was it like that in Hollow Knight?
I think so. I don't remember for sure, but I think it was just as punishing.
I think so, but then like you healed. I think you healed 1 mask at a time at least like at the start in Hollow Knight. So it wasn't as bad because you still had some soul left for the rest, but. In Silksong, it takes almost like all of your silk when you're healing until you get those upgrades later on.
Yeah, that is true. Since Hollow Knight, you would hold it down and heal 1 mask at a time. So if you got hit, it would like basically cancel that 1 mask's worth of healing, and you would lose that soul, but it wasn't all of it in one go. It was just that 1 pip.
Yeah, I remember. In Silksong, I think the quick bind was one. I think because you get these special slots, like you get one yellow and one blue that you can have equipped to all your crests. And I think I put the quick bind. I don't know, was the long claw also a blue?
It was a blue, yeah.
But I do remember the quick bind I had equipped to all my sets because, like, you know, I used the healing a lot, and it was so punishing if you got tapped while you're. I mean, it was basically crippling on any challenging fight. There were only like a couple of situations where I recovered from that. If I didn't just die outright.
In the beginning, I used the warding bell because that would actually give you like a little bit of a shield. So if you were healing, it would basically knock you back, but then you wouldn't take damage if you got hit while healing. But I quickly replaced that once I found better stuff.
I couldn't figure out what it did. I could never tell what it did because I got hit while I was using the warding bell, and I still like either lost myself or took damage or something.
Yeah, you still get that was it knockback animation? So yeah, it seemed like it didn't do anything, but yeah, you don't take additional damage while you're in the middle of healing.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
You still don't get the healing, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask, did anyone ever take the quick bind off? Because that to me felt essential.
The injector band?
Yeah, I forget what it's called, but it's the thing that makes you heal quicker.
Yeah, I didn't get that until like pretty far in the game because I didn't discover the white ward area until like until I got pretty far in. I think I had I had explored the rest of the map, and then I went back and found the white ward. So I stuck with the multi-binder for the most part, which was slower, but at least it like gave me 4 masks of health.
Right.
I did use the multi-binder off and on. I think I've eventually dropped it because it gives you 4 instead of 3, and it splits it up, which is it's nice when you're in the platforming sections, but when you're in combat, sometimes it's a liability, I felt like.
Yeah.
But
did anyone try that with the injector band? Which I did look it up. That is what it's called.
I used them together.
How was the speed on that?
And it was much faster.
It definitely sped up the multi-bind. Like I ended up dropping the multi-bind because I was happy with just having the 3 masks and the quick binds, but they did work together, which was kind of neat.
Yeah. I think those blue tools, I felt like there were so many that I wanted to use that I never had enough slots for.
Yep.
Go ahead. You had to be more selective with them.
Yeah.
Sometimes, depending if you're fighting fire enemies, you would want to equip the magma bell to lessen the fire damage. I would use the fractured mask quite a bit as well. I don't know if anybody else did, but
what did that
then because that would basically it's like on the final damage, it would basically absorb the hit.
Oh, okay.
And the nice thing about it was it worked even for multi-hits. So in the case where you would have gotten 3 masks of damage, it just translated to 1 damage.
Nice.
So I used that quite a bit. There was the NPC in the Hunter's March that was kind of interesting. You found I broke this wall and found this ant that was selling stuff, and it seemed like he was kind of he was ostracized from his group or something.
Yeah,
I don't know what was going on. Yeah,
he was like one of the enemy guys, right?
Yeah,
I don't think I met him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like in a very secret spot, and then if you get to him later on, he ends up you find his body because he ends up getting killed by his own kind. There was some interesting storytelling moments that they're just kind of conveyed through just environmental like layout, and it's not outright said out loud what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. The poison was used quite a bit. I would use that in conjunction with those cog flies.
Yep.
But yeah, I think most of the times, I stuck with a couple of those things. There was that fight with where you were clinging onto the wall. Well, there were several fights where you cling on the wall, and so there was that tool that would make you not slide.
Yeah.
Which
that one was
like
a yellow tool, which I was happy about because I always had that one equipped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And then, of course, gathering all the rosaries, the magnetite brooch. Oh, and then the magnetic dice. That was like a must-have. Did you guys use that?
I think I equipped it because I didn't have. Was it a yellow tool? I didn't have anything better to do with my yellow tools, and so I think
Yes,
but I didn't know what it did.
I didn't either. What does it do?
So it would negate damage, but it's like a 5% chance. So like sometimes you would get hit, and then it would just it was like a crit miss.
Dang! If I'd known that, I would have had it equipped. Because
I think I did have it. Because the Wanderer, like when you have a full heal's worth of silk, the Wanderer, like your crest, that little symbol up there turns into a harp, and you can do like critical hits, which do double damage. And so I equipped the loaded dice because I was like, well, maybe it increases the chance of that. But then I started noticing, like you said, that occasionally I just wouldn't take damage, like it would just flash blue. Which was kind of a similar effect. So I got it wrong, but I was kind of like right in a. It was like kind of.
No, I think you're right. With the Wanderer's Crest, I think it also gives you like a crit hit as well.
So I'm on a wiki. And it says one of the tool effects listed says increases Wanderer's Crest crit chance from 2% to 2.2%. So it increases it very slightly.
Oh, I got it right. That was totally a wild guess.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of the community felt like the magnetite dice, the magnetic dice is one of the more OP.
Well, dang, I was playing tools on extra hard mode then.
Yeah, because the yellow tools. We talked about. I wasn't super thrilled with the red tools, and you could probably build around them in some cool ways, but I just mostly used simple ones. And I think the crest, like the Wanderer, only had one red slot anyway. Yeah. The yellow tools, I think I ended up with 3 or 4 slots, and I couldn't figure out. Like I think I always had the compass. There's like one that gives you more carapace. I didn't use the wall cling. I found it actually threw me off because I got used to the way you slide down, so I would get like confused. So I didn't use that one. I think I used the magnetic dice, which was pretty late when I got it. And then I was like, what do I do with all these slots? Like, keeping the compass equipped was just like kind of for convenience.
Yeah.
Did you use the weighted belt?
I did.
I did
which,
not.
Prevented knockback?
Yeah, I used that.
Yeah.
Which was nice with the Wanderer's Crest because you attack so fast that you could just get next to them and attack without having to worry about like repositioning yourself. You could just go ham.
Yeah. Okay. Especially with the shorter range, right? Unless you use the long claw. Sometimes I would equip the long claw with the Wanderer's Crest to compensate for the shorter attack range.
Yeah. The long claw became one of that and the injector were like my 2 standard blue tools. I do agree though that like I think there were too many useful blue tools and not enough useful like yellow in particular. Red you could debate, I think, and it's probably just me not using them, but yellow just felt like you had a lot of slots and not a lot of good stuff to use with it.
I had the magnetic brooch on the whole game to collect the rosaries, and honestly the other 3 yellow slots. With the Wanderers, you get the 3 plus the bonus one. The other 3 slots I could give or take almost, like, didn't really matter. If I'd known how the magnetic dice work, I would have had that be another permanent one. I ended up keeping the grip thing on, which actually proved helpful in a couple bosses. This isn't a hard boss fight anyway, but the Clockwork Dancers near the end of Act 2, you can just cling on the wall and they can never hit you. You can just sit there on the wall and just swing, like just keep swinging, and they get close enough to the wall for you to hit, but they will never hit you. So you can easy no hit in that fight with that tool. But then I would just have, like, depending on what I was doing, like the weighted belt, the shard pendant to get you more of the carapace, and the compass. Like I just, depending on what I was doing, I would use 2 of those 3 for the other 2. But I really didn't care that much. It didn't make a huge difference. If I was exploring, I would have the compass on, but if it's a boss fight, I don't need it.
Yeah, whereas with the blue, like, I think you both have mentioned different ones, but you have, like, the flame bell was useful in certain situations, the venom, the quick binds. There are a couple. One, I think, gives you extra silk slots. One actually gives you, like, an entire extra heal. So if you don't have enough silk to heal, she'll just, like, Hornet will just, like, pop this thing out and then, like, just heal herself.
I use that on the final boss.
Yeah. You had the multi-binder was pretty decent. Like, it just felt like a lot of those were useful, and you've only got, like, 2 or 3 slots to use them in.
And if in the one that protects from the swamp in Biowater is also a blue. So, like, if you're in the...
I found that way too late. I had already, like, discovered everything and beaten Grohl, and then I find the Wreath of Purity, and I'm like, great.
Well, it's like you have to, like, use the super jump late in Act 3 on the other side of the... I mean, it's basically like you're getting the final pen upgrade or something, and you can access it.
Yeah, it comes late.
I think.
Yeah, I don't remember. I got it pretty late as well. But, so, like...
And there's so many other good blue tools that I just I just would rather avoid the maggot water if I can, help it, rather than pick up a precious blue slot.
Well, and the other thing too is I think the Wreath of Purity actually, like, breaks.
Yeah,
so it's like it only triggers once.
Yeah,
which to me is, like, so underpowered.
Yeah, I tried to get good with the back dash item. It's called the Scuttle Brace.
I tried that too. I could never.
I could never develop the muscle memory to, like, remember to backdash when I really needed it. So I just ended up not equipping it most of the time. I was hoping to get good with it. Like, I'd love to see, like, someone who has mastered it.
My muscle memory was always just to hit the right trigger dash in the opposite direction. Yes, this is one of my biggest complaints with the game is the way the tools work. I actually didn't... I mean, it makes a lot of sense when you said it. I actually didn't find the permanent blue thing. With the Wanderer's Crest, I only had 2 blue slots. And in my opinion, the injector band, especially in the Act 3 bosses that are so fast, like, is basically required. Otherwise, you never have a window to heal.
Right.
So I basically had 1 blue slot to fiddle with, and there were, like, half a dozen I would want at any given time. And, like, coming from the original Hollow Knight, like, even if I had the 3rd blue one, like, it still would have been a big restriction. And in my opinion, the first Hollow Knight had allowed way more flexibility in your builds, because it was like you had so many slots in each... What were they called? I forget what they were. Charms, maybe.
Charms or crests, yeah.
Yeah, whatever they were called. Each one of them took a different amount of those pips, those slots, based on their power, like how powerful they were. So if you wanted to just take, like, 4 really powerful ones, you had that choice, or you could take a lot of like small ones. So like something like the compass would only take up 1 slot, and you might have like 15, or I forget how many you end up maxing out at. It wouldn't take, so like here, all of them take in 1 slot, no matter how powerful they are. So it's like, I don't know. It's like the whole system just felt more restrictive to me. And also by breaking up into the 3 colors, it's like, okay, well, all the good ones are getting thrown into the blue. So it's all like really pinching how many of the blues you can use. I don't know if you guys felt the same way or not. I could see someone maybe making an argument that for liking this system better, but I know I definitely had more flexibility. I felt like I had more flexibility in Hollow Knight, and I changed up my builds a lot more in Hollow Knight, whereas here I just kind of stuck with the same stuff the whole way through because I didn't feel a great reason to change.
Yeah, this gets a little bit back into, I think, what we talked about with crests, and I do agree that I think there were too many good effects in the blue and too many like mild utility effects in the yellow. That was a bit frustrating. Plus, different crests had different combinations of slots, which could have been interesting, but there just wasn't much incentive to try out different crests. Plus, you get them kind of so late, and I didn't see a clear line. I think one thing I did want to mention, just kind of also in this, I felt like that was a missed opportunity. Things like crest upgrades and maybe like a better system with the tools. This is a little bit difficulty related, but in the exploration, I mean, Silksong does reward you a lot of times for poking into corners and stuff, but I found that a lot of those rewards felt kind of paltry, especially in the context of it being a fairly difficult game, and sometimes like you have to do a lot, you're like exploring biowater, or you're doing like tough platforming, and then it's like you get to the end of it and you get like beads or carapace or like or fleas. Yeah, fleas is what I was gonna say, because I mean technically you need to find a bunch of fleas for Act 3 and you need to find them all for your pen upgrade, but that's like, it's not incremental, right? In the way that like the Hollow Knight like charm slots or even like mask pieces are, like getting like a flea just felt like such a non-reward sometimes for a really challenging section.
The sound that the fleas make where they're like yelping for joy is its own reward.
Yeah.
I'm glad you feel that way.
I mean, no one's a bigger flea fan than Ryan, though.
Uh-huh.
Well, in the first game, did they have they had like an equivalent to
so
like worms?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, the little green grubby worms. They also made an adorable sound, and their rewards were more incremental because you went back to like I don't remember what it was called, but like
the grub hive guy.
Yeah. So like every so many grubs you found, you'd go back there and he'd like shower you with rewards, be it like currency. Sometimes it was a charm. Sometimes it would be like an upgrade material. Like he had a whole bunch. There's a whole big list of different rewards he had. So it did make those feel more satisfying to find than the fleas, which the fleas really only do stuff for you at those 2 triggers, the one to start Act 3 and then 2 to get your final pin upgrade, like Ryan said. It's like those are kind of the only 2 points where you feel a reward.
I think there was like some rewards that the flea master would give you, like a tool pouch upgrade or something like that, like every certain interval, I think.
That's
that's all. Mm-hmm.
You got this like flask from them too, which was
the
funny.
flea brew.
I used that in one boss fight with the Reaper, so it made the Reaper like attack like the Wanderer, which was really funny.
I don't think I ever used the brew.
Use a lot of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't either.
But I do agree, Flex. Like really, I mean, I forgot about the tool pouch upgrade, which is pretty nice. But yeah, it's like at 20 fleas, you unlock Act 2 or Act 3, and at like 30 something fleas, you can play a bunch of mini games to unlock the final pen upgrade, which is like, it's like, really?
That juggling mini game, hardest thing in the game.
I think I got it on for whatever reason, I think I got it on like my second try.
Man,
Um,
just showing off here.
yeah, I mean, which I was kind of like, oh, these mini games are fun. I just wish I didn't have to find all the stupid fleas to actually play them. Just give me the mini games and the pen oil, and we'll be good.
I think we should turn to some progression. We getting a little late on time, so we won't hit this too hard. But I'm mainly just curious about: did you feel like you had any weird or like backwards path through the game? I'll give one of mine just for an example. I did not fight without fighting the, what is it called, the last judge at the gate, the end of Act 1. Something judge.
The last judge.
Yeah, before I even encountered the last judge,
right.
I somehow went through the foggy thicket and went through that organ and biowater and went up into the, like, this weird, like, behind the scenes sewer system or something, and emerged in next to the Grand Bellway, and it just flashed on screen, Act 2. So I like...
Oh, wow. So you went through the mist.
Yeah, I
basically.
went through the mist, and just as I was exploring, and I hadn't encountered the last judge at all, I was just exploring the world, and just went through the mist, went behind all of that Citadel Chambers, whatever area, and just popped out right next to the Grand Bellway, and it said Act 2 on the screen, and it changed my objective marker away from the last judge. So, like, you do not have to fight the last judge in this game at all.
It's wild, yeah. I did go through the mist, but that was much later. Like, I was already well into Act 2. And you get, like, fight a mini-boss, you get, like, a counterattack silk skill, and then, yeah, it kind of drops you back into somewhere in the Citadel, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that was, like, my main progression thing was... Because I did, in each act, I explored as much as I could before going on to, like, the act, you know, the objective marker. And, yeah, just totally stumbled my way into circumventing the last judge. Did either of you have any fun progression stories or just any thoughts on, I guess, the, like, path through the world as a whole?
I don't remember anything quite that. I mean, I guess I never made it to the slab the way that you guys did.
Right, yeah,
I
I think that counts.
And I did find those keys. I went out of my way to find all the keys, and like, which was kind of pointless later. But the two things that stand out to me, I remember I had to look up the Feywild cloak, which was quite annoying because you can start to tell you need a double jump. I think somewhere maybe like late into Act 2, and it's like, okay, where's the double jump? And it's like you have to climb all the way up to the top of Mount Fey, and then just like play your. So I didn't find. I think it might have been because I couldn't find my way to the entrance, or maybe I turned around and backed off when I saw the cold mechanic. I don't remember exactly why, but that was very, very late in Act 2. I was a little annoyed by that. There was one other thing.
While you're thinking on that, I will throw out there, you do not need the double jump to beat Act 2.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. You can roll credits in Silksong without getting the double jump.
Oh, well, I did do I did fight Lace and get like kind of the bad ending. I went ahead and saw that, but
okay, yeah.
Get Act 3, I think you have to have the Feywild cloak.
Yes, you do need it to finish Act 3 and get the true ending. Yes, but you do not need it to finish Act 2.
yeah, I did go ahead and see that, and then I was like, okay, I want to unlock Act 3. And I know there are these double jump spots that I'm missing.
Mm-hmm.
I will need to think. There was one other thing that popped in my head, but when we talked about the slab, it fell out of my mind.
All good.
I'll try to think about
Yeah.
that.
What about you, Alex? Anything that jumped to mind?
Well, not really. Like, most of my exploration was pretty straightforward, except I missed the claw line, so I couldn't get the double jump. And I mentioned this to you, Flex, when I was on your when you were streaming, and I also mentioned this earlier. I hadn't found the white ward. I think, all that leading to the place where you get the claw line. I had missed that section, and so I was like kind of stuck for a while. But then once I guess once I looked that up and figured out where to go next, it was straightforward. The other thing that was really confusing to me was when you had to get the 3 hearts. There was a one in that like plant area.
Mm-hmm. There's a 4th heart,
and I could see the marker. Yes. Oh, okay. That's the one I can tell you about. I didn't even get the plant one. Mm-hmm. I instead went to that verdant green area and got my 3rd heart that way. And I was like, oh, I'm done. I didn't even like beat that other boss, but okay, like that's enough.
Yeah, so you could actually
go back to those shamans.
Yeah, so you could actually use that to completely skip our favorite boss, Carmelita, because she's one of the 3 hearts. So you could get the one in that verdant area and not fight her if you wanted.
Is there like a hidden heart?
Yes, there is. There's a 4th one. Do you remember there's this guy that's locked up, and you could use a key to free him. He's this like mantis-looking guy.
And oh, okay. Is that the Green Prince?
Yes, the Green Prince. Okay. Yeah. So if you follow
area that you could find him in.
Yeah, so if you follow his quest line all the way through, which I think you do have to like interact with him and talk to him at a couple parts of the map to get him to move to the right place. Classic FromSoft style. But yeah, it's like 2 or 3 spots, and I just found him naturally while exploring because I explored the map over multiple times. But anyway, you get into this new area. I forget what it's called. I think it's Verdant something.
Verdania?
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah, that sounds right. And you actually like enter his dream or something. Like you enter a weird, like not real space. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I think you're like seeing his memories from a past time. It was kind of my read on it, like what happened to him, and it's like telling his story.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you finish it, you get his heart, and those shamans just want 3 hearts, like 3 of these whatever types of heart these are. So you can use his as a substitute for one of the main 3 if you want, and you could skip one of the other 3 bosses.
Okay. Yeah. I did not know that. I did not.
Yeah, I encountered that area of Verdania because I was in the so I'm looking up the map, and it's right next to the crawl, those like bird enemies, and I had gotten like a summons to like go fight the Crawfather, I think, but I couldn't find it, so I was like looking in that area, and then I happened upon this like brand new section. I'm just like, what is this? Yeah. And then I just kept going with it, and then like stumbled upon another heart by accident.
Yeah.
And it was all because I couldn't find the way into that that other plant boss, the one that you had to like cling onto the wall, and there would be like thorns and everything when you fight that boss, which I did go back and do, and when you get that heart, you can display it. Well, whichever heart you don't use, you can display it in your house. Mm-hmm. Did you guys get the house? You guys got the house.
I did get the house, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you have to get it to do Act 3, actually.
I think you might be right. It's one of those weird I actually don't like how obtuse, like finding
Yeah.
the fleas and moving the flea caravan. There's like no indication. I felt like in any story, like why you would have to do that to progress to Act Three, but you
Yeah.
do. Um,
Yeah,
oh,
there are a couple
a
obtuse.
couple other.
There are a couple. Just quick note on that. There are a couple obtuse things like that, and because Hollow Knight had a similar structure. They didn't call them acts, but there was a like normal default ending that was a quote unquote bad ending, and then there were more steps you could do to get the true ending. And the steps to get the true ending, I don't remember being quite as obtuse as the Act 3 steps are in this game.
Yeah, yeah. I had to go basically look at a guide, and it's like, oh, you need to get 20 fleas and move the flea caravan, and like you need to buy a house and
Yeah, there were
do
some
15
quests
side
you had to
quests.
complete, yeah. Which, since we're running long on time, we don't need to spend a lot of time on this, but I largely did not like a lot of the side quests, especially the ones that were like go kill X number of enemies or collect X number of items from enemies. They're your classic grinding side quests, especially since you couldn't collect those items before accepting the quest. Like I could kill a billion of enemy type X and then pick up a quest that says go kill that enemy, and it wouldn't count like retroactively. I would have to go back and kill a bunch more, and that was annoying.
And it's a random drop sometimes,
Yes.
right? Like it's not guaranteed that they'll drop the thing.
Yeah, like the quests that like pointed towards like a hidden boss or like kind of directed you somewhere, like those quests were fine, but all of the quests, and there were probably at least half a dozen of them that were just go kill enemies or collect random drop items from enemies, serve no purpose. I don't know why they're in the game. I think they're bad.
I guess I didn't mind grinding those since I was always needing more rosaries, but I did not like that the courier quest. You had to like go from point A to point B without getting damaged or running into a wall. Out of all things,
That did actually make me chuckle the first time I ran into a wall and it and it hurt the thing, because I was like, oh crap. You can kind of cheese the courier quest though, because enemies don't respawn until you rest at a bench. So you could actually just go completely clear the route and then go pick up the package to deliver and then just walk through unharmed.
Yeah, it's time consuming though.
It is very time consuming. I didn't do that, but you could.
Yeah, I didn't even do the last one, which is like going all the way up to Mount Fay. I looked up the reward, and I'm just like, just more rosaries? No, thank you.
Yeah. I did the same. I saw that, and I'm like, is there really anything for this? And I looked it up, and was like, nah, not going to do it.
I did the run, and I mean, I did it because I kind of liked those courier quests. But yeah, again, we talked about paltry rewards, and getting like 600 beads or whatever is like, oh, cool. I guess.
Yeah, you could have done that farming a couple of guys like in the the coral halls or something.
No story, no like anything, just some beads.
Yeah.
Yep.
I did want to mention real quick while we were talking about progression. It took me forever to find the map of the archives, which I thought was really annoying. And then there were a couple of areas that were out of the way and a little strange. Like I think there was like the area where you fight the flame guys. I forget what they call it. The will-o-wisp swamp area.
Oh yeah, it's like this wisp thicket.
That was
Wisp thicket. Yeah.
Wisp thicket. That was super hard to find.
Yes.
I think I found it in the guide. The conservatory was tough to find, I think. And I found this like surface village. I don't remember if there was actually anything there. I think it has one of the Professor Fungus shows up there maybe or something. I went all the way up there and was like,
how do you forget Mr. Mushroom's name?
Mushroom.
Whatever.
That was a gauntlet. Like getting up there, like I felt like that was my path of pain in this game.
It was
you have this like vertical climb through, like past all these thorns, all these like they almost look like Metroid like enemies that would like go back and forth, like the horizontal like those enemies that you could stand on in Metroid, but in this case you had to like bounce off of them with your downward strike. And there were like some tricky platform sections where you had to like, well, you were never like standing on anything. You were just constantly grabbing onto the wall or bouncing off of things or air dashing over to another side of the wall. And that was an intense area for me.
Yeah, it was tough to get to.
I'm gonna make a confession. I love the platforming in these games. all of these scenarios you guys have described off and on throughout this whole podcast, where you're like, oh, this platforming section's tedious, climbing this thing was really hard. I'm like, I love all that. It's great.
Oh boy.
I love the Path of Pain in Hollow Knight. That was a great section. With it. There are dozens of us in the world who love this. I'm one of them.
I was okay with, because it was kind of like, it was a one-off, right? But it was, I do think it was not, it doesn't fit the game the way that like the boss fights, like it's just not the kind of challenge the game is designed for, I think.
I think it's great.
I digress.
Sorry, did not mean to interrupt your
talk
story.
About
story?
Yeah. So that's our last thing, which I don't have a ton of thoughts on story, but I definitely don't want to gloss over it. So yeah, any story, NPC stuff, like how did you find, I guess, all the storytelling and the characters, which one thing I will say is I thought the writing in the game was pretty good. I did enjoy the writing as a whole. But yeah, how did you find all the narrative stuff and how it was presented and what happened and all that?
Can we talk about the map maker, Chakra?
Oh, she's great. She's the best.
Hearing her singing and just like how badass she is when you see her like defending Bellheart. She's just like knocking out all the bad guys with her disc ring thing. Did you guys fight her?
Yep.
I think so.
Was that a required thing as well? Like if for Act 3, or was that an optional thing?
I'm not. That's a good question. She might be required for that. And I think that's how. Well, I assume that's how I got that chakra weapon that I used. I definitely fought her though.
Yeah. That was. She's a great character. There's I alluded to at the beginning, Sherma. The one that's the little dude that's singing at the door. Yeah,
that's great.
He has like the faith in the Citadel or whatever, to guide him. There were all these great little moments that they're just kind of like not even story related, but just seeing him like splashing around in the hot tub area, like the little like sauna area. Did you see that?
Yeah.
I don't think I did, although that does sound pretty cool.
That is a good point, though, Alex, is that this game, and it reminded me that Hollow Knight was similar as I was playing this game. Like, the characters do have a lot of personality to them, even when there's not necessarily a lot happening with them. Like, they have that, like, I don't know, they have that energy and, like, a personality to them that not a lot of games have, and they somehow are able to get a lot out of a fairly little amount. Like there's not a lot to some of these characters, but they're still memorable because they have that, they just exude that personality.
There's so much
change. I think with the acts. I was gonna say, I think they, like you said, Hollow Knight. This was one of the strengths we talked about earlier, like the side characters or whatever. Like they change with the acts. Like I think I remember, now that we're talking about side characters, there's like a knight who rides like a mount.
Garmin and Zaza.
And in Act 3 you actually find him like kind of consumed by the blight and have to like put him down.
Yeah, that was really sad. Like his little like bug companion is leading you over to him to see if you can like help out, and he's just kind of slumped over, and the companion's just kind of staying with him. Yeah, there's all these like very touching moments. The Green Prince is like tied to those cogwork dancers, and I guess like he's mourning the his partner who you fight the two dancers, and it's supposed to represent, I guess, the Green Prince and his partner.
Yeah. Oh, and his boss fight is a harder version of that clockwork fight. Like it's him and his like the ghost of his partner like dancing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, very similar but harder version of that fight.
Right. There's lots of cool moments with there's also the robot knight that you find, the second sentinel. So we were talking about where did these like hearts go? These cogwork hearts or something like that. You find it in that kind of like clock tower area, and then I discovered there's this like robot that you activate, and you're like wandering around the coral chambers, and then suddenly you encounter him just like attacking enemies. It was really neat to just kind of come across these moments.
Shouts out to Grendel. He always be hustling. The little thief guy.
Is that? One thing I did want to say about the story, and it kind of connects to all these different side characters. And one thing I think Silksong did that was different from Hollow Knight that I liked was that Hornet is actually like a voiced character compared to like the knight from Hollow Knight. And so like I like the way that Hornet's character navigates a lot of these situations. Like, and you get some. I feel like there's a little bit of a missed opportunity here because you actually do get a little bit of like backstory from Hornet. Like she's apparently like both a spider and a worm. I guess she's immortal or like extremely long lived. But she's obviously like a veteran, and sometimes she lightly alludes to the events of the previous game. But a lot of times, when Hornet, I guess you're as the player playing Hornet, and you step into these situations, and she starts a conversation like, she kind of has this like no nonsense courtesy. So it's like she's not looking to start trouble, and she's usually very courteous. And if people get defensive, she's like, okay, whatever. Like I'm just passing through, basically. But she also doesn't take any like flack. Like with Grendel or the other characters.
There's
like,
Krat, I think he's the one that's tries to like spy on her. He's the flea that has a hot tub.
I didn't do that. I didn't do that because he was such a creep. But
so like, there's a way that you, if you're in there and then you see him like poking his head through the window, if you are quick enough and you hit him, he'll let you use the hot tub for free after that. He's learned his lesson not to mess around with the Hornet.
All that stuff's great.
I liked Hornet.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, and I'll just echo your point. I totally agree. I really liked her characterization and that they gave her dialogue and like made her an actual character.
Yeah, I feel like at the very end of Act 3, and I wish there was more of this throughout the game, at the very end of Act 3, you get this pretty lengthy flashback, which kind of gives you a glimpse into Hornet's childhood. And she kind of alludes to some of her experiences when she's having conversations. Like, she's familiar with the Void. She's clearly been around a long time. She has a hive steel weapon. Like, there are little hints of, like, her, I guess, she's been captured for some reason, right? And you find out it's because she's like a spider. So there are these hints, but I think you kind of get a much more clear picture at the very end of Act 3, and I kind of wish there'd been maybe a little bit more of that, maybe through side quests or other things. That to me was a bit of a missed opportunity where they could have, because a lot of times I was like, oh, Hornet seems like an interesting character, but I'm going to get one line of dialogue from her like every area or two, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very subtle, like the storytelling, and it's similar to how Elden Ring and Dark Souls, all the FromSoft games, like they drop like pieces here and there, and you basically have to watch a YouTube video in order to piece together the lore. I was
Yeah.
watching a video about the whole like spiders and how they were uh, basically like too powerful that like
Mm-hmm.
grandmother Silk ended up controlling them and putting trying to suppress them because she was like worried about them overpowering her.
Yeah. I think the other thing that uh, I mentioned this a little bit in that Silksong is more Hollow Knight in a way. I think the setting is maybe a little too close because I think in the first game you have Hallownest, which is like this decaying kingdom, and you have to explore it to kind of like um, you know, I guess kind of seal away the final boss. And Silksong is Farloom, which is this decaying, recently fallen kind of kingdom
Mm-hmm.
area.
Yep.
And
There's a
there are some
rainy
differences.
city area in both places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's some differences, but I think the broad setting like has so many similarities. I was like, man, this feels very like familiar. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Hmm.
it echoes Hollow Knight, I think, a little too closely, and I think they could have there might have been an opportunity to try a different setting. I know those kind of ruined kingdoms are very popular for this type of game because there's a lot to explore.
Mm-hmm.
They make kind of natural settings for like the archaeology and exploration elements of these games, but it's
Yeah.
like when you have two in a row that kind of do this almost, uh, it's a bit reductive, but let's say the exact same thing. It's like, mix it up, guys. Try something a little more creative.
Yeah, and it is a natural fit, like you said, and it leaves a lot of room for environmental storytelling and like discovering what happened and things in the past and all that. And as you said, it's popular for this genre. Like pretty much every FromSoft game is this as well. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I think even more than repeating that, I don't know that I really like repeating the like, oh, the first ending you hit is like the bad ending, and then there's a like another section to
Hmm.
get the quote unquote true ending. Like kind of going through that
Yeah.
again. I don't know that I need that like two tiered ending structure anymore either. Um, some way to mix that up,
There's
I think,
yeah.
also
Yeah.
would have been nice.
Did you see all the different endings? There's like several of them
I
as
saw
well.
two. I didn't. A coworker who also played through the game told me of a third one where you get that
Yeah.
curse and beat at
Yeah.
the Act Two
The
boss while
witch, the one
cursed.
that you get before the witch's crest.
Yeah, so
Oh,
I did
wow.
not get that ending.
That is also pretty hardcore, to make it through there without any healing
Hmm.
and beat Grandmother Silk. I felt like Grandmother Silk wasn't too bad, if you
Yeah.
have everything. But then if you're like, with one hand tied behind your back, and trying to fight her, I think that is truly a interesting challenge.
Hmm. Yeah.
Y- Yeah. I definitely take your point, Flex, though, because I think these games, like the games that don't have multiple endings, can feel unsatisfying because, the games that do it well, it's like you said, you do these weird condition combinations or you find, it kind of ties the exploration or like timing certain objectives or meeting certain conditions. Like it's cool when the games find creative ways to turn those into like endings and outcomes. And it can be unsatisfying. Like I remember playing, I think it was Momodora Moonlit Reverie, and I think there's basically just one ending to that game.
Hmm.
And so it turns this 2D exploration into sort of more of like a linear endpoint. But at the same time, I agree, like we've talked about, that it felt very predictable with Silksong, and there maybe are ways to like maybe do multiple endings and not just two endings, right? Or not.
Yeah, and yeah, I think multiple endings would spice it up, and the two they have though are still kind of linear endings. It's just more of like a tiered ending structure. The first one you get's the bad ending, and then you have to do that first, and then you have to do extra stuff. It's like an epilogue chapter to get the true ending, and they have to happen in that order. So it's not really like because you explored this or found these items or did these things, then you get this ending as opposed to another ending. It's like, no, you just hit the first ending, and if you keep going, you get the second one.
Right, yep.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Can I throw out a couple of other moments that stood out to me? I wanted to mention the first time you get to Bellheart, and there's that cutscene. You look up, and it's like all these bugs just kind of like hanging by a thread, literally.
Yeah,
and it's just this like eerie moment. Like they really do a good job of kind of like setting the tone in an environment.
That is a point I had written down. Is they do a really good job with like the presentation and like dare we call them cutscenes or whatever. It's like for the moments where they bring out all of that presentation flair that they have when they do bust that out. It's always really well done. I really like that whole Bellheart section of like saving Bellheart, like getting rid of that curse or whatever was overhanging it. I liked all of that. Yeah,
fighting Widow. And then there's also some like unexpected moments, like one when I think this was in Act 3 when you're trying to summon the Bell Beast. Shout out to the Bell Beast. You know, it's a good dog.
Yeah,
good boy. And then like he doesn't show up, and then this like random worm like centipede creature pops out of the bell. So just like, what is going on?
When they do moments like that, it's good because Bone Bottom gets destroyed by an attack at one point, like completely caught me off guard. So things like that they do are cool.
Yeah, they do a really good job with these sort of like moments that in the middle of the gameplay you just like don't expect.
Mm-hmm. Any last story shout-outs, character shout-outs before we wrap this podcast up? Going once. Going twice. All right. So, I guess we'll just wrap up some final thoughts here. We'll just kind of go around the horn. We'll start with you, Ryan. What are your kind of, I guess, final... I feel like we've probably all said kind of like a lot of our overall thoughts, but any last wrap-ups you want to give? Here's your chance.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate what I said, is that Silksong is more Hollow Knight, for better and for worse. And I think, I'd dock it about a point on a 10-point scale because of things we talked about with like the difficulty, making things more tedious, less rewarding, and it being maybe a bit predictable and echoing kind of the setting of the first game a little too much. But, Silksong also had some things that I liked that we talked about, like Hornet as a character.
Yeah. What about you, Alex?
I would love to see them try to make this game more accessible because of all these fantastic moments. Just the care and the detail. It's a shame that how many players would just try it out for the first like hour or so and then give up, because there's so much beauty in this game that I would love to have more people try out. So whether it's like just offering ways that you can kind of tone down the difficulty, or some sort of assistance or something like that, where you don't alienate the primary players who are coming into this expecting the difficulty. There's nothing wrong in making your game more accessible to a wider audience, and having more people enjoy the story and the exploration and whatnot. If not everybody's into the strategy of figuring out every single movement of a boss and then mastering how to defeat them. But
Yeah. I
overall,
sorry, I'll just interject and say, yeah, I've come down on the side of, I think they should always provide options to make it easier for whoever wants it. Like, I totally agree with you. And because I was fine with the difficulty in this game. I liked it. It was at the level I wanted it to be for me. And I think one of you mentioned it earlier, like, it kind of seemed like they expected you to play Hollow Knight. So, like, I played through Hollow Knight twice, so I felt like I was well equipped to play through this game, and at the difficulty it was at. But I think the good example I always think of is Celeste, which is a hard game. But it has, if you go, and it's clear that, like, the default is like the way the developers quote unquote intended, and it's hard, but there are accessibility options in there that can make the game much easier if you want them. So it's like, okay, here's how we intended the game to be played, but here's some options if you want them, and it's totally cool if you use them. Like, you're not a lesser, it's totally fine. Like, we encourage that if you want it. And I feel like that's just a really good model to follow, because it serves everyone.
Yeah, didn't Hades also do something like that? The first Hades had, like, some sort of mode that you could turn on, and it's like a little bit more like it does carry over more or something like that, where between rounds.
Yeah, both Hades 1 and 2 have basically an easy mode. So Celeste was nice because it wasn't just like an easy mode. It was like a bunch of different toggles you could do. So if, like, you only wanted certain things easier, you could do that instead of just making everything easier.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway,
but other than
continue.
that, I'd love to see them see what their next project is on this. It's like I would love to see more I guess like more media around this franchise. Like I would love to see like an animated movie. Just because like I love all these like characters and the art style and we haven't even talked about the music in this game.
It's great.
Which I love it. Like the Choral Chambers song still it rings in my head. There's so many great songs in this game.
Shouts out to Clockwork
the boss
Core.
fight songs. Yep.
Yeah, and that fits into the presentation as well. Like, the music really sells the big moments.
Yeah, even the callwork dancers, the like music box style boss theme was fantastic, and the way that it speeds up as you deal more damage to them. I saw
a video of someone fighting the clockwork dancers, but they only attacked on the beat, and it like produced this like really like it was almost like a dance performance where they were like in sync with the boss. It was kind of cool to watch.
Imagine if there was like a game mechanic where like, oh, this boss is only weak when you like attack him at like when you hit them on the downbeat or something that.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. But and the third phase of that callwork dancers was throwing me off because sometimes they would attack on the offbeat. Like I would have to just like lower the volume in order to not get distracted by that. But I think overall would love to see more from these guys, but it'll probably take another 10 years, right?
I've probably said most of my thoughts at this point. I really like this game. I loved it. This is also like my exact type of game. Like, this is right up my alley. I definitely have some gripes, and I think as I've set with it, I do like this game less than Hollow Knight, and I think most of that is similar to what Ryan was saying, is it is very similar. It is more Hollow Knight, which just makes it feel less impressive in ways. And I tend to be that way with a lot of sequels that are samey. It can be it's just as good of a game, I think, but by virtue of coming second, I don't have the fondness for it that I have for the first one. And there are some changes that I don't like as much, like we talked about the crests and talked about and the tools like the blue slots and that kind of stuff. I also don't like grinding. Like, I never actually ran out of the carapace stuff for your red tools, but the idea of having to grind for those if you ran out sounds annoying. But yeah, most of my gripes about this compared to the first one are pretty nitpicky. If they made a third game like this, I would eat that up too. I'm sure I would like it. I would like to see them for their next game do something different, because I think a third one would probably, just by virtue of being the third, be less impressive again. But I would still enjoy it. I mean, I've played all the Dark Souls and they get less impressive each time, but I still like them. Stuff like that. So yeah, really, I love exploring. I love the platforming. I don't know if I'm a weirdo for loving the platforming, but I do. I love the boss fights. I like the variety in the world and the area and the NPCs, and yeah, it's thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yep.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, I think that is a podcast, and
we made it.
We did it. Good chatting with you guys, and I feel like we could go for another 3 hours just talking about all the little nitty gritty. There's definitely a lot of details in this game that are fun to talk about. But that was a real good chat. Appreciate chatting with you guys. It was fun. We've just had a big discussion about Hollow Knight Silksong. This has been ATACS. I have been Flex, joined by Ryan and Alex. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.